Hello, hello, hello. Good to see all of you today. It's Saturday, and we're at 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and we're here for Cars and Coffee with Kenny Brown. If you've just tuning in lately, we are continuing Cars and Coffee, and we are going to be playing some tech tips from Kenny that he's shared in the past. And then we're also going to be having special guests on. So today we have Jim Donato, and we've had him before, and he's just a wealth of information. He is going to share a lot of trailer maintenance and safety information for you, for those of you that trailer your car to the track or to a car show or whatever. So he will be sharing that information. But while more people get on, I have something to share with you. What's in Kenny's toolbox? So let me get that. Now, I think this is an oldie but goodie. I'm sure there's better technology than this, but this is what he's sharing in his toolbox, and I'll try to hold it up, see if anybody knows what this is for or if anybody has used it. So, see that?
So that looks like a timing wheel to me.
Yes, it is, and I think it's old school. Is that correct, Brad?
Yeah. Oh, they call it a timing disc.
Yeah, for cams. So yeah, so that's really interesting. Has anybody used this before? Like I said, it's really old school. It looks really old.
Looks like Calvin Goring's used it before. He called it a degree wheel, and he says it's for setting up the camshaft.
Yep, it sure is. Very, very good. So we are going. It looks like Calvin's here. Let me know who's here today. It looks like. I'm getting Facebook here that says I have, so I don't know who that is, but Brad, maybe you can see that name. Anyway, we are starting the show. Brad is going to show the first time. Here we go.
Say that again, Carrie? Oh, I'm going to.
Yeah, introduce it.
Okay, so we're going to play a quick video. I think this is about 9 minutes long, and this is Kenny's 5 critical steps to building track-worthy. All right, so we're gonna.
Here's the 5 critical things that we talk about in performance planning. And planning is so important. If you're going to go on a trip, and today all you got to do is talk to your phone and tell you where you want to go, and poof, all of a sudden, you know, the whole route's planned out through the nav. But let's say pre-nav, if you wanted to go someplace, you have to pull out a map and say, okay, I'm going to go here and figure out the best way to get there. Well, performance planning on a car is absolutely no different because the #1 thing in performance planning is start with the end in mind. You have to know where you're going to end up and you work backwards from there. Anytime I build a new car, a new platform, I always envision the entire car first. What's it going to be? And then from there in my mind, I kind of work backwards on the steps we need to do to get to that point. The same thing. I mean, if you're going to do a car, then your performance planning, think about where you want to be ultimately. And then you can maybe break it into steps or years or whatever. But you need to start with where you want to be because if you don't, you may do something and make an update. And all of a sudden, for the next step, well, you got to take that off and put something else on. So if you're planning out, then everything you put on, you don't have to back up and go backwards. The next thing is decide whether you're going to build a street car, a track car, or a race car. Because the criteria on components are not completely different, but very different from each of those. Because you don't want to put race car stuff on a street car, and you don't want to put street car stuff on a race car. So you have to make your mind up which it's going to be. And the track car is kind of in the middle. And in the track car, even, you have to figure out, is it a little street and a lot of track, or a lot of street and a little track? Because again, then all the components are different. And then you need to start. The next one is, I can't read my writing habit. Ever since I type so much on the computer, I go to write stuff, I can't even understand my own writing. It's kind of, I think writing before long is going to be a lost art. Expectations and budget. Make sure your budget and expectations are aligned. A lot of times people have these great ideas on what they want to do. They'll call in and get one of my 15 minutes, and they'll say they want to do this, and what's the best way to go about it? And then I say, well, do you have any idea what that's going to cost? And as soon as I start talking about what they just outlined, all of a sudden, a lot of people go numb because they really didn't think that far ahead as far as their budget and their expectations. So get your budget and expectations in line. That's another advantage of having one of my 15-minute consults is if you've got a budget and an idea, a plan, or where you want to be, will help you work backwards from there. So that you get the best route, the most cost-effective, so you don't have to redo things. The next one is stick with a proven philosophy. Like my philosophy is completely different than anybody else in the aftermarket in motorsports or in the Mustang world. Whether you stick with mine or if there's somebody else out there that you like the philosophy, what they do, stick with it. Don't mix and match. The worst calls I get is people call in and the car really doesn't work very well, and they start listing out the parts, and they got this component here, and springs there, shocks there, control arms here. They get everybody's parts on there. As soon as you start putting a whole bunch of parts from a whole bunch of different places, what you're doing is, you might not realize it, but you are on your very own R&D program. And, because you're going to have to find out how all that works together. When people call in, they got all that stuff. I mean, I don't have good answers because I don't know how all that stuff works together because I've never done it. With mine, mine's philosophy is pretty straightforward. The whole suspension system we do now started in 1986, actually 87, with the championship Saline cars, and it's progressed to the point it is, up to actually AGS 4.5 now for the S197s. So, stick with a philosophy, whether it's mine or somebody else's, because if you stick with, if it's like, another company and you like them, you've had a relationship with them before, stick with them. Because if you have a problem, they're going to be able to tell you how to fix it. If you're working with my philosophy, my stuff, if you have a problem, we're going to be able to tell you how to work through it. And then the last is choose your parts carefully. The worst thing you want to do is you don't want the cheapest parts ever, because the cheapest parts are the most expensive. And if you long term, cheap parts are expensive. Choose your parts. Like if you're using my philosophy, try to get everything from this program. If you like somebody else, try to get all your parts from them, and just don't get seduced by all these online sites where you got all these different parts to choose from. Try to stick with somebody that can tell you what to do. So anyway, that's kind of like the 5 critical steps. And I think I mentioned through here, if you really want help, I've got my 15-minute consults, which we do quite a bit of, and they're very, very popular. People are pretty blown away to actually take the time to talk to them and share real information, not something somebody read on the internet or heard. And what we ended up doing is, this is kind of, Terry gave me this is kind of an example we did for Joe Doe. We took the name out to protect the innocent. And also the phone number, but this was like for an 18 GT, and I don't know if you can see this. We just go down, step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and because a lot of people, for budget considerations, can't do it all at once. So I'll come up with a plan and we'll put it in a logical format, so you can actually do step 1, and then when you can afford it, step 2, and just go all the way down. And that way, you don't have to back up and redo. You're using a plan. You're working to a plan, and when you put stuff on, it's going to work with the next stuff you put on and the next stuff you put on. So performance planning is super critical. And like I say, my 15-minute consults, I will do the best I can to get you on the right path.
So that was really insightful of Kenny. If you're just joining us, this is Cars and Coffee with Kenny Brown, and I'm Carrie Southworth. I'm Kenny's business partner and wife, and we also have Brad Grissom with us. And we are kind of continuing on the Cars and Coffee legacy. We are planning on having a guest speaker every other week. This week we have Jim Donato, and Brad's going to introduce him. But before Brad introduces him, Kenny mentioned about the 15-minute consult. We're also continuing on with that. Kenny did great training with us, and so we know a lot about his philosophy and his ways. So if you have, and we know a lot technically, so if you want to schedule a 15-minute consult, please do so. The link is on the website, and once Brad and I get a little more familiar with this, you will have links in the comments, but today it's not going to be there, so you have to look on the website. Also, if you have questions for Jim Donato, please put them in the comments. He is here to share a lot of expert information on trailer maintenance and safety, and he has a lot of things to show you today, so we're going to get to him right away. Again, this is Cars and Coffee with Kenny Brown, Carrie, and Brad. So enjoy. Jim, I'm going to add you to the stream. Brad, do you want to introduce Jim?
Yep. Hi, Jim. Thanks for joining us today. Looks like we lost you there. Carrie's playing with the buttons. So Jim is kind of our go-to guy for all things trailers. We've been working with Jim for several years now. He and Ken were really good friends, and we have a lot of customers who have purchased trailers from Jim, have worked with Jim to build custom trailers. He also flips used trailers as well, and he is a glorified expert. He's located in Logansport, Indiana, which is kind of trailer country, and he works with a couple of different trailer manufacturers, and he can really make all your dreams come true when it comes to a race trailer upfitted with everything that you need to go to the track and be comfortable at the track. So Jim, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? I've got a couple of, I did a PowerPoint presentation with about 6 or 7 images in it, I believe. And then we have the cargo trailer owner's manual that you wanted to go through. I think there were 4 pages on that. So you'll have to let me know what you want me to show first, and then what you want me to change the slide or go to the next page. Okay. So Jim.
Not a problem. Welcome everybody. And Ken and I have a lot of the same philosophy, is that you got to plan. Just like planning for your race car, you got to plan your trailer. You got to spec it out. You got to make sure that the trailer does everything you want it to do. So having a good plan going forward, even with your trailer, makes good sense. Today we're going to go through some trailer maintenance stuff, some of the basics, because it can get lengthy. There are some trailer maintenance schedules out there, and you should, just like your race car, you got to do standard stuff and maintenance to your trailer before you go towing, just like before you go on the track. So there's a host of things that you should check. Some items you may have forgotten. Hopefully we'll remind you. The basic stuff I think everybody knows. So the first, we'll jump right in as far as that part of it goes, and start with the ground and start on tires. Trailer tires are not DOT rated. And Brad, if you can flip to one of the trailer pictures, I can make it work with whatever one you can pop up. But your trailer tires are indicated. There you go. Most trailer tires have a wear indicator on them. So when you look at the tread, you'll be there will be steps in them. Now, not all trailer tires, but the majority of them have this little insignia on the side. And then if you flip to the tread picture, there will be steps that will say 8, as you can see there, 2, 4, 6, 8. That's your wear. When you get down to 2, that's how you overgrease the bearing. When you get down to 2, your tires are pretty thin. The worst thing that can happen to you, obviously, when you're going to the racetrack is you're on the interstate and you have a flat. So obviously inspecting your tires for cracks, for wear, even for age. Now there's some pages that will show and that will be available if most of us know how to read the date codes on our tires. There's several different facets that will tell you that trailer tires should be replaced every 5 years. the UV of the sunlight is really what kills any tire or any rubber surface. Use your best judgment. If the tires start to get cracked on the sidewalls, my recommendation is get new ones. And there's several different tires out there to choose from. I don't necessarily recommend one brand of tire over another. It's what you like and what you're used to. But bear in mind, trailer tires do wear out. And when they start to get pretty thin, they're pretty susceptible. So inspect your tires, go through them. The other important thing to remember is trailer tire pressures. Now, trailer tires not being DOT rated, the manufacturer doesn't say run these at 32 PSI or 40 PSI. The trailer manufacturers will tell you to run the tire pressure indicated on the tire for maximum load. Okay? A fast rule of thumb is 5 lug tires are 50 PSI. 6 lug tires are typically 60 PSI. 8 lug tires are typically 80 PSI. Now, that's just a standardized version of how they are. You should read the tire itself to get the cold tire pressure. Now, remember, air expands in these tires, so you got to be careful that you don't overinflate them or underinflate them. Okay? So start with your tires, tire wear, tire condition, tread, and even if they are worn on the inside or outside, it does happen if you bang one of the biggest potholes, like they say here in Indiana, the smoothest 2.5 miles is around the 500 track. So you hit a pothole pretty good, you can throw your trailer axles out of alignment. And we'll get into that in another episode, but it is possible. So take a look at your tires, big condition. And if you pop up one of the screens that show the tire from the manual, Brad, that would be page 6, I believe.
Okay.
This is a good and we're going to make this available. I think Brad's going to make this available to all of you. There's some good general information on here on tire fundamentals. Most of us know how to read the tires and what they do and what they are. But if you don't, it's good to brush up on that kind of stuff. The next thing we want to get into is coming from the tires is the lug nuts. Now, if you can go flip me back to the screen, I'll show you. I brought a few props in. Everybody standardly knows we've got our standard wheel stud, our standard lug nut, and what we call our crowned lug nut. Just like on your race car, if you keep tightening and tightening and tightening your wheel studs, you're going to stretch these out, make them weak, and then you're going to tighten them and you'll snap a stud off. So you want to keep some lube on them, spray them with WD-40 at the beginning of the season or any kind of lubricant that you have. Loosen all your lug nuts and then retighten them and torque them to the specific torque. The majority of trailer manufacturers will tell you that lug nuts on mostly all trailers is 100 foot-pounds. So 100 foot-pounds on your lug nut torque. If you murder them, you'll stretch the stud and run a possibility. If it gets a little rust, you'll twist it off. So again, keep these lubed. 100 foot-pounds is your standard torque on mostly all lug nuts, and that's standard lug nut or the acorn lug nut, or the acorn lug nut or your aluminum wheel lug nut.
Is anti-seize good to use?
I'm sorry.
Anti-seize?
Anti-seize will work. Anything to keep them free. So anything to keep them free. Anti-seize works awesome also. So keep your lug nuts. That way, if you do have a flat, you're not along the road, and you've got to get a giant breaker bar out. And again, you run the risk of twisting off a wheel stud. Most of the trailers that you're using for your Mustangs are 6 lug. They're a 5,200 pound axle. Your 5 lugs are typically 3,500 pound axles. But again, you want to avoid any issue. If you have a problem, you want to be able to solve it as fast as possible and get to the track. So tire conditions, lug nuts. The next thing is lubing your, we'll say lubing your axles. And I've got a beautiful picture of what not to do to lube your axles, if Brad will pull that up. Most of your modern axles, everything built here in the past several years, have what's called easy lube hubs. And what that means is there's a grease zert at the end of the axle, and it's a drilled axle, so it lubes the front and rear bearing simultaneously. However, as you see here, if you don't control your power grease gun, you can blow the back seal out and drown the brakes. Obviously, that's what's happened in this picture. So this is a dramatic version of what not to do. Now, typically, just like everything else, when you lube these, look for the grease coming forward, because you're greasing the front and rear axle simultaneously when you're pumping grease in an easy lube hub. You don't have to murder it. Now, the book says you should lift the tire off the ground with a jack and spin it while you're doing that. That's what Dexter and Lippert both recommend. Do we all do that? No. Is it critical? It's only more critical if it's right after you've repacked your wheel bearings, which is an annual maintenance thing depending on how many miles you tow a year. Okay? Many manufactured charts are out there that say repack them once a year, repack them annually, but it depends on how many miles you pull. But as long as you lube them periodically, and lubing the axles is typically something that is we recommend every three months or every 3,000 miles at the outside. So coming up forward, again, tires, lube. The next thing, tires, tire pressures, lug nuts, lube the axles. This should avoid any of your major problems that you get or that gets you to the racetrack on time. The next thing we'll look at, if we go to, I'm going to show you a few other things that a lot of people miss. Is one thing is the coupler. Now this is a straight tube coupler, but your coupler, very seldom do we ever look underneath the coupler. We just drop it on the hitch ball, lock it down, and go. What you have to remember is when your trailer ball is in this and this is locked down in position, this is actually a wearable item. This would be this piece right here. If your trailer ball is loose inside here and you've got a significant amount of gap, towing 4,000 or 5,000 pound trailer, and that's rocking back and forth, that's going to create a significant amount of wear in a short period of time. So take a look at this piece here. Now, there are kits available online where you can buy these different pieces to match whatever your current trailer has. But this is an item that a lot of people forget about because it's never mentioned in general maintenance. But it's a very important piece for safe towing, because if this gets really loose, then all of this wears out prematurely, and it could actually have the trailer pop off the ball. So again, very important to take a look at this also. Going down my list is the next thing in safety is all of your modern trailers have a breakaway device. Now this is typically mounted up on the tongue and wired into a battery that is totally separate from the 12-volt system in your trailer. This emergency breakaway has this plunger in it, and the plunger is hooked to a cord, and then you hook that cord to the tow vehicle. In the event that the trailer separates from your tow vehicle, then this will pull out, and this device will activate your electric trailer brakes on the trailer. Now, your trailers will have a black box that looks like this. And inside this box, now sometimes those are mounted underneath the trailer, and sometimes they're mounted in the trailer, in the body of the trailer. Inside that box is typically a little NiCad battery. This little battery, according to the book, has a shelf life of 5 years. A lot of times they last longer, But this little 12-volt battery is what powers that electric device to power your brakes in the event of an emergency that the trailer breaks away. Now, that battery is charged typically when you're plugged into your tow vehicle. There is a diode that prevents that battery from running your interior lights. A lot of customers will say, well, I'm going to plug that directly into my 12-volt battery that I have running my interior lights so that has plenty of voltage. But if you leave your interior lights on and that battery goes dead, then the system's not isolated. So if it happens, then you've got a problem. So according to the DOT, it's a separate circuit for that. Again, it's err on the side of caution, be safe. It's designed this way. My recommendation is leave it that way. Again, those batteries have only a certain shelf life. You can charge them with a standard battery charger under low amperage. If we flip over to an electric trailer brake picture, which I think I sent you one of those, Brad.
Yeah, so I was going to add this back to the stream, and maybe you can go backwards a little bit if you want to.
Sure. Okay, there's the hitch I was holding up and the device that will wear, and that's where the ball goes. Again, that's a wearable item. So be sure to check that your ball and your coupler is not too sloppy. Again, just like in racing, if you've got something worn and you've got a lot of slop and it's under a lot of load, especially hitting the brakes, hitting the gas, hitting the brakes, it's going to create a lot of premature wear. So bear that in mind. And it can be adjusted, as you see the bolt in the bottom. And sometimes those work themselves loose, the bolts stretch. Again, same type of theory. Check that now and then. It may just need a quarter turn to tighten it up. But again, it's a very important maintenance item. Here's our electric trailer brakes. For those of you that don't know how electric trailer brakes work, this is an electric trailer brake setup. The oval puck at the bottom is an electromagnet. So what happens is when you push on your brake and you go through your brake controller, that's the emergency piece. When you push on your brake, that puck is an electromagnet. It sticks to the drum, and as the drum rotates, then it forces mechanically the brakes to separate the shoes. So that's how your brakes work. So the higher your voltage is, the more the magnet sticks, the more the brakes stick. So on your trailer brake controller, when you adjust the gain up and down, you're actually adjusting the amount of voltage going to those trailer brakes. Now, a fast way to check your trailer brakes is with the help of somebody and your trailer's hooked up, have them push on your brake pedal. If you go back to your trailer and you put your ear down by the wheel, you will hear those electromagnets humming. And it's pretty distinctive hum. And that will tell you at least that those are working and that wheel is working. So just a fast check of how you can check the electromagnets working is just listen for the hum with somebody having the brakes applied. And again, those mechanically separate and open up, and that's how the brakes work. So we talked about our breakaway switch, our breakaway battery, our trailer brakes, our lug nuts. Another thing is on your brakes, some trailers have self-adjusting, what we call a self-adjusting R axle, which is kind of like what we're used to with our older cars, where you'd pump the emergency brake backing up to adjust the rear drums. They work the same in a similar fashion. They'll self-adjust. Some don't. You would adjust these just like you would adjust the drum brakes on your old Mustang, where you have to get in from the backside, take the plug out, and spin the little adjuster at the bottom. It would be down on this picture. It's right above the red spring. It's a standard rear brake drum adjuster. Pretty easy for that. When you're also checking and you have aluminum wheels, this is especially prevalent on trailers with spread axles or 3-axle trailers, when you're cornering or going around or parking and you're in the paddock maneuvering around, none of those trailer wheels turn. So you put a tremendous amount of pressure also on the rims. So check the rims to make sure they don't have any cracks in them, because they will crack over time, and I've seen that happen. A little more prevalent on triaxles and people doing a lot of heavy cornering when you're parking, trying to maneuver through a paddock. We talked about repacking your wheel bearings and watching for the rear seal to come out. The magnets, if you've got hydraulic brakes, that's a kind of a different animal. Another thing to look at is on your suspension pieces, if you have, oh, that's our timer. If you have torsion axles, those axles are bolted to the frame. If you've got leaf spring, check your U-bolts, check your bolts, check the condition of all of those components, because they do wear. There's a few other photos. One other one I want to show is the electrical picture, page 12. If you could pull that up real quick. And I don't know, Carrie, if we have enough time or if we're running out. Or
oh no, we're fine. What we do with Cars and Coffee is we run until we're finished. So
okay,
if everybody wants you to continue on, I'm sure. So go ahead.
12, Brad. Did we get 12?
Okay, so I'm on 12 now. Is that?
There it is. That's it.
Okay.
This is all of the modern trailers and all of your tow vehicles follow this same rule of electricity as far as how the plugs are laid out. And this is your standard layout. There is what they call the trailer facing plug and the tow vehicle facing plug. So these round 7s are universal. So no matter who the manufacturer is of the trailer or the tow vehicle, this is the standard wiring setup. And that leads me to checking all of your brake lights, checking all of your clearance lights, making sure your turn signals and brake lights all work. Some trailers have built-in fuses, some don't. Again, a way of checking these things that we do here is we take our jumper box, ground the chassis of the trailer, and then use a jumper wire to test individual pegs in your round 7 on the trailer, so that you don't have to have it plugged into a tow vehicle necessarily to check it. So again, another little way of checking stuff prior to hooking up, so that you know everything in the trailer is working. I get a lot of phone calls to say my trailer brakes aren't working or my trailer lights aren't working. I'm like, do you know it's the trailer or the tow vehicle? Well, it worked before. Well, maybe you didn't have the plug quite connected, and that created enough resistance to blow the fuse on the tow vehicle. So this is a way of checking the trailer isolated, so that if you do have a problem, you know which way you've got to check.
So if I look at this diagram again, I guess this gives you the pinout data down at the bottom. So you know what wires you would be checking if you're going to use like a digital volt ohmmeter or something like that to do some basic diagnostics.
Correct.
Yep. Does that sound right? Okay, good.
That's correct. And there's a lot of this information is out there also if you Google it, and then you can print out individual pieces and individual charts. But just like Kenny said, you have to have a checklist for your trailer, just like I have a checklist for my race car. And that's your pre-race checklist. It should be your pre-tow checklist. So tires, lug nuts, breakaway switch, trailer brakes, wheels, tire pressures, condition of all your hinges, condition of all your locks, condition of all your coupler, all your lights. So there's quite a bit to it to tow and safety. And that's a very important thing. This is our routine. This is just a fast, that's okay, put that up. That's a fast routine maintenance checklist. Even your safety chains, you got to be sure that however they're attached, they're not loose. In the event that you have a problem, you want that problem to be solved as quickly as possible. So again, this is another little safety checklist. And if anybody needs enhanced versions of this stuff, contact Carrie or Brad, and I can email them to them, and they can forward them on to you. So it's not a problem.
Actually, I've kind of thought about that. There's a couple places that I think Brad's gonna put it on the website. We have a trailer link on there, a product to purchase a trailer. He'll put it underneath that, and also probably in our blog area on the website. And then also, I think we have a resource section in the Speed Therapy Society Facebook group. If you haven't joined that, make sure you join it. There's a lot of resources in there already. So we'll add it to that. Again, it's Kenny Brown's Speed Therapy Society Facebook group. That's a really interesting group to be involved in, and it's going to be adding more information. So please sign up for that. I'll try to put a link in the comments. So anyway, we will have those. Okay, Jim, back to you.
Okay.
Jim,
Yeah,
were you?
Go ahead, Brad.
Were you done with this slide? I guess it got taken off the stream prematurely.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
2 other points I want to bring up, just from safety standpoint. Some of the just like Kenny says, I mean, you got a plan. And the first question I usually ask people when they ask me about a trailer is I say, well, okay, if you're hauling a Mustang and you're getting a trailer that has a 7,000 GVW, and you take the 7,000 GVW, subtract away to the trailer, and then you got tools and tires and all your gear and our canopies and coolers and all the stuff we all take to the track. You don't want a 7,000 GVW trailer with 6,900 pounds in it. You're on the edge of having it overloaded, which is a safety factor. In the trailer world, my recommendation is always err on the side of make it heavier duty, and then you'll never have a problem with any of the components. Now, when trailer manufacturers make their trailers, the axle is actually the weakest point. So a trailer built for 7,000 pound axles or 3,500 pound axles is typically, depending on the size, is typically the same frame, the same build as one built for 5,200 pound axles or 9,800 GVW. So the axle is the weakest link. The other important factor to remember is when you have 3,500 pound axles or 5-lug axles, those will have a 10-inch brake drum. A 5,200 pound axle will have a 12-inch brake drum. So just like in racing, more brakes, better stopping power. So makes it more safe. So bear that stuff in mind, folks, when you're thinking about trailers, looking at trailers, checking your trailer, and make sure the drums and the brakes are all in good condition. We showed a picture of that stuff also. And buy your parts from a reputable place. I'm a Dexter fan. Dexter and Lippert are the two big axle manufacturers. So both of them make great products. I sell them both on my products. There's a lot of aftermarket stuff out there. Nothing, just like what Kenny says, if you've got Dexter, stick with Dexter. If you've got Lippert, stick with Lippert. It's just a good idea from a safety standpoint. That's kind of the general jumping off point for the season. Make sure that your ramp doors are lubed. All your doors are lubed also, so you don't run into any issues with hinges. The other thing is your ramp door spring assist. Majority of those will have a red square bolt that takes a 3/8 open-end wrench. Be sure that you tighten the drums and the spring. That ramp door assist spring is very, very, very similar to the garage door spring you have on your garage door. If that slips, then you're not getting any spring assist, and you'll have to adjust that. And they are adjustable, but make sure that those are adjusted and tight, so you've got maximum spring assist. You don't want to over tighten it, or the door will slam every time you lift it up. Again, your man door, your entry door, be sure your locks are good and everything like that. It's always good to have a nice coupler lock as opposed to just a lock that goes through the latch on your front coupler. Many different locks and safety stuff out there. We'll get into that in another section. I usually get asked about trailer weight and sway control. And Brad and I talked about doing a section on weight and sway control. We'll do 30 minutes easy on setting up a trailer, the percentage of weights you should have, and kind of rules of thumb of drop and how much weight to put in, and when to use weight and sway control and when you don't need to, and how to do aluminum frame versus steel frame. I'm primarily an aluminum frame guy, so I like the clamp-on style. So a lot of trailer information we're going to be sharing with you. Carrie's going to be putting some links. I'm going to send her some pictures and different checklists that you can go to their website, go to Kenny Brown Racing and download that so you can use that for your trailer checklist, just like for your race car. And we'll keep charging forward. So I hope everybody has a great race season. I'm looking forward to 2 weeks for my opening season at Blackhawk Farm. So we'll go forward.
Great, thank you so much, Jim. One thing that we've neglected to mention, one of the main reasons Kenny has chosen Jim Donato as our primary trailer company is Jim is a racer, and he understands car weight, he understands what you need to put in the trailer, he understands where you need to load it, just everything about racing. So and that applies to if you're doing track days. So plus he's a really good guy. The other thing is Chris Mellitu mentioned he bought a trailer from Jim Donato, and he loves his trailer, but he had a little issue. He had a tree fall on his trailer, and that's another thing. Jim takes care of you after your sale, and so Chris sent the trailer up here. I think Jim's team went down and picked it up, brought it up here, took care of it, and then sent it back down to Chris. So that's one thing. That's one of Kenny's philosophies is always take care of the customer after they purchase to make sure they're taken care of. So Jim does that as well. Another thing I wanted to mention is that Jim is one of our guest experts on the Speed Therapy Academy master classes. And what Jim does there is goes quite a bit more in depth than what he's doing right now. And so we're going to be having more master classes in the future, and I'm sure we'll have Jim joining us. It's part of our Kenny Speed Therapy Academy, which is a 16-week program, and every other week we have a guest expert. But what we're going to be doing now is opening it up and let other people join on the master classes. So I think I've talked enough right now. Let me see if I covered everything I wanted to. Oh, one more thing. If you like what Jim says and you didn't catch everything, you'll be able to see it, I believe, tomorrow on the Kenny Brown YouTube channel. So make sure you can view that. There's a whole bunch of resources there as well. All the videos that Kenny's done, tech tips, guest experts like Jim Donato. So if you're looking to replay it and listen to what he said again, please check out the Kenny Brown Performance YouTube channel and subscribe, like, and click the bell. So I got that right. I don't know if you ever remember hearing Kenny. I would be directing him on that all the time. So, and what Brad and I are finding out is it's a little more difficult than we thought sitting up here and talking to all of you. So we really appreciate what Kenny did. Brad, I'm going to let you take over. I'm sure we have some questions coming in. So Brad, if you want to take over on the questions.
Yeah, I'm not able to see maybe all of the questions, but Jorge Rivera had a question, and I don't quite understand it, so I'm going to read it and interpret it.
Jim might know too.
It says, do you leave the coupler underneath? And so I'm not sure what that means, and maybe Jorge, if you're still viewing, maybe you can type in the chat and elaborate on that question a little bit. So I'm not quite sure. I think it looks like you're a little bit stumped as well, Jim.
Well, there are different couplers as far as like what they call a level coupler, an underlung coupler. Leave the coupler underneath. As far as maybe leave it open, or it depends on if you have a locking system on
it. He says lube.
Oh, yes, definitely. Anti-seize and if you're a racer and you've spent the time at the hotel and everybody backs their trucks in and you walk along the sidewalk, you got to watch those, because I've got the scars in my knee from banging into people's trailer balls and grease all greased up. So yes, absolutely. Lube the ball and lube that either with your wheel bearing grease or anti-seize, anything to keep that lubricated. Yes, that's correct. Good point. I should have said that. So
yeah, no, and he did clarify lube and then where the ball and the coupler meet together. So tire pressures still can be a little bit confusing. Is there? Can you go back over that again, maybe, or is there a general rule of thumb of how many psi you should be running in the tire when it's hot?
Yeah, well, tire pressures are typically set when they're cold. Okay. Now the warmer we get in the summer, obviously, the air in unless you're using nitrogen, some of us use nitrogen in our race cars and some don't. Your tire pressures, the tire itself will tell you maximum PSI for maximum load. Okay. In the trailer industry, there's a 10% rule. If it's 50 PSI max and the tire's relatively warm, you want to be in the 45 PSI zone. If it's really cold, if it's cold in the morning, you want to stay at 50. A lot of times, if you check your tire pressures when they're hot, they're going to expand up into the 55 PSI range, if not a little bit more. So tire pressures, the best indicator is what is actually written on the tire, and whether it's a Goodyear or whatever brand of tire it is. But the tire pressure will indicate that. Bear in mind, trailer tires are not DOT rated. So they're not the same as, technically, the sidewalls are different as a passenger car tire. Now, some people will put light truck tires on their trailers. That's okay, because an LT tire has a heavy sidewall. Trailer tires aren't designed for cornering so much as passenger car tires, nor for the soft ride. So that's why they're recommended at maximum PSI, and that coincides with all the engineering for either 7,000 GVW, 10,000, 9,800 GVW, 10,000 GVW, or the GVW. So it's best to check the tire itself for the maximum PSI when cold, and if the tire's warm, back it off a few PSI, 10% PSI. So on a 50, do 45. But the rule of thumb, if you're looking at a tire and you can't find it, if it's a 5-lug 15-inch wheel, it's typically 50 PSI. If it's a 6-lug 15-inch wheel, it's typically 60 PSI or 65 PSI, and 8-lug for 80 when you get into bigger trailer. I hope that clears up a little bit of tire info.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't see any more questions. Do you see any more questions, Carrie?
You shared such great information that
it's all good stuff.
You actually answer all the questions, or they're just so enthralled with what you're sharing. So, but anyway, here, Bill Haney has a question. Brad, you want to read it, or do you want me to?
Yeah, Bill says, can I refit my 28-foot enclosed trailer with Dexter torsion axles? It has Dexter 5,200-pound leaf spring axles now.
You can do that. To change from torsion to leaf, torsion axles are bolted to the frame. So you would have to order that axle with the perches set in the proper position. So is that possible? It is possible, yes. It's an axle order, and there's a form that you would put together to order the axles for that, but you can do that. The other thing that you'd have to be sure to consult with somebody, if not myself, is Dexter will build the axle. A torsion axle can be built in what we call different degrees, and that means that the angle of the wheel coming down can be a different degree, so that from static to 0 jounce is a different range, and it also affects the ride heights of the trailer. They call it degreeing the axle, which is angling it down on a torsion axle. But to answer your question, can it be done? Yes, it can.
Okay, and Jim, I'm putting your email address in the chat, so hopefully everybody can see it. And then, so Bill, if you
were getting more questions in, go ahead.
Okay, so as I was saying, Bill, if you need to reach out to Jim, please use the email address that I put into the chat section. Just shoot him an email. He can send you the form that you need, and you can work directly with him to get axles for your 28-foot trailer. And Jim, you had something else?
I want to tell Bill one other thing. Bill, if you've got Dexters and they're spring axles, I assume they're tandem axles, take a look at the Dexter website at a device called a Dexter Easy Flex. Now, this is the device that fits it removes the metal triangular piece that's bolted solid to the bracket between the springs. It's a good device that is a bridge between torsion axles and spring axles. Dexter claims that this Easy Flex device reduces road dampening up to 70%. I order mostly all my car haulers now with the Dexter Easy Flex if I don't get torsions. What I like about the Dexter Easy Flex is it's completely serviceable. It is also available in a kit form where you can install it yourself. It gives you brass bushings for all of your spring eyelets with lubable bolts so that you can lube the entire suspension. But it's Dexter's website. It has a wonderful thing. It's called a Dexter Easy Flex. And the whole kit is available based off the poundage of your axles. If you need help, contact me. I'll be glad to steer you in the right direction. But it is something you could just install yourself, and the kits are readily available.
Yeah, if I could find a picture of that Dexter stuff.
Yeah, I've got pictures in my phone, but it's called a Dexter Easy Flex.
Okay, yeah, it's pretty cool. We talked about that a little bit in the academy.
Yeah.
When you did your presentation or your master class for the students, and it was a pretty trick little device. So if I can find it, I'll post it up later. And then so we did have a couple of other questions as well, but you had a comment, Jim?
No, I was just going to say there's different manufacturers. If you have a Lippert axle, there's different I'm just using Dexter's because I primarily do a lot of Dexter. That device is manufactured. It's not a secret thing to Dexter alone, is what I'm trying to say. So there's there's other manufacturers. I just like Dexter. If you got Dexter axles, use the Dexter part. You know it works, it fits, it's for it. So same way.
Okay. Go ahead. So Bill Haney said he's going to check the Easy Flex out.
Mm-hmm.
And then we do have a couple of other questions, and I'm going to do them out of sequence. And I can't see who this person is, so I apologize. I think they're viewing on the Speed Therapy Society page, and so we can't see their username when they post a question. But this person says, how often should you change the small battery under the trailer? They were thinking every 5 years. Do you have a rule of thumb?
Yes, actually 5 years is correct. That would be this little battery right here, this little NiCad battery. Check the voltage on it, and you can check that with your standard voltmeter also. But every 5 years, you need to pay attention to it because they only last so long. But 5 years is the standard rule of thumb. That is correct.
Okay, and the same viewer asked, what's your preference on type of axle? Do you prefer leaf for ease of maintenance repair or the smoother ride of the torsion axle? Is there any cons to torsion besides level control?
Okay, this is a big question. So spring axles are the most serviceable, the most rugged. They're kind of like leaf springs on your pickup truck. They're not the smoothest, by any means. They work the best with a load in the trailer. The Easy Flex device, which is the hybrid between the two, personally, that's what I like the best, and that's what I have on the trailers that I use every year when I go racing, is the Dexter Easy Flex. I like the torsion axles are by far the smoothest, and everybody in the trailer industry will tell you they are the smoothest axle because they're four-wheel independent. You know, each wheel works independent. Torsion axles, just like spring axles, they have their downfalls in the fact that, you know, over a long period of time, 10 plus years, the rubber will the trailer will start to sag a little. Just like the springs will get weak in your car, or the leaf springs will get weak on a trailer. So they're the smoothest. Personally, I like the Dexter Easy Flex, and I like it for the reason that you can lubricate every single moving point on the suspension. If you bang a pothole, run over a curb, if you've got somebody else, if you're taking a nap and you've got a co-driver driving the tow vehicle and they run over something or hit a pothole in the road that will swallow the whole tire, if you've got a torsion axle and it bends it or bends the stub or jacks it up, you got to buy an axle. There's no really good way of correcting that. With a Easy Flex or a spring axle, especially if it's an undermounted, what they call the spring is under the axle, which typically trailers are. The U-bolts will drag first. You'll hit the spring first. A broken spring, and I've personally broken springs on trailers, patched them up with blocks of wood and a tow strap, and limped home. So there is some roadside repair and some forgiveness that can be done on spring and Easy Flex axles. That's just my preference. I have a lot of customers that won't have anything but torsion, and that's okay. It's just a decision that you have to make. Kenny and I had this conversation once upon a time that if money was no object, we'd all have monster trucks and fifth wheels and trailers that had everything in them. So it also depends on what you want to spend. Torsion axles are the most expensive. So that's the best way for me to answer it, is I like the Dexter Easy Flex or that Easy Flex device because it's the best of both worlds and it lets you lubricate the whole suspension.
Okay, so we've got another question here from Brian West, who is one of our Speed Therapy Academy alumni members. He says the 5-bolt wheels are Ford pattern typically. What bolt patterns are used on 6 and 8 lug wheels?
6 and 8 lug wheels are typically trailer ran. So that's a different bolt pattern than 5 lugs. So 6 lugs, the majority of 6 lugs won't line up with an actual manufacturer. There are some out there that do, but 6 lugs can vary also in from manufacturer to manufacturer. So there's no really rule of thumb to tell you that 6 lugs are 6 on 3.5 or any particular number. It would just depend on the axle, unfortunately.
So you typically would buy the wheel from the that's designed obviously for that axle then.
Yeah.
Sometimes
what people forget is like aluminum trailer wheels. If you look at an aluminum trailer wheel versus a passenger car wheel, the aluminum trailer wheel is built a little bit different. It's a little bit more sturdy to handle the weight. They're designed a little bit differently if they're trailer use only. There's nothing wrong with using passenger car wheels. The Ford wheels on 5 lugs is very, very common. But there are some 5 lugs out there that are not, and the Ford wheel won't work. They're a 5x5 instead of a 5x4.5. So the age of the axle, how old it was, would vary on what will work. So you'd have to just measure it and see if you're thinking about putting a different wheel on your current axle. You'd need to get your bolt pattern and then sort through it backwards through the specs in order to do that.
Okay, so we've got another question from Jorge Rivera. He says, what's the proper placement of the Mustang in a trailer relative to the axle of the trailer to keep 60% of the weight in front of the trailer?
On a tandem axle trailer, you'll want the rear wheels. Again, this is how we set them up. You'll want the rear wheels between 8 and 12 inches behind the inside wheel box, so or towards the rear of the trailer, and that is a pretty good balance. Now, again, it's going to also depend on the length of the trailer, because if you've got a 28-foot trailer, the car is going to be a little bit more to the rear because you've got more tongue weight by volume of trailer. So to answer the question 100%, I'd need to know if it's an 18, 20, 22, the length of the trailer, to give you an idea. On a typical 20-footer or 24, we're going to have the rear wheels the rear wheels will be 4 feet in from the rear of the trailer, and the typical axle sets, depending on the length of the trailer, that puts the rear wheel behind the inside wheel box, which is a 6-foot wheel box in general tandem axle terms. It puts the rear wheel at the rearward of that by between 8 and 12 inches. So Jorge, if you get me the info on your trailer and its manufacturing, I can help you look it up and try to give you an idea. The other thing to do, don't forget, is you can also go by a typical metal scrapping place and see if they can get your tongue weight. Or some trucking companies will have a scale heavy enough to they'll let you measure your actual tongue weight. You can get a tongue weight scale and then figure that out also. If you've got the old school way of doing things when you don't have anything is you would take your pickup truck and you'd load bags of sand or bags of salt in the back of it till you get 800 pounds, and you'd measure how much it drops your bumper with a ruler. And then you'd hook your trailer up, and then you'd know if it dropped it that much, then you got 800 pounds of tongue weight. That's us old school guys. So that is the old school way of measuring it. You just typically measure the tongue weight based off of load in the back of the bed of the truck or in the bed of the tow vehicle.
We love old school ways. Kenny was all about that. We love new technology, but I don't know if he ever shared his story about his baseball bat, what he used that for. But anyway, so someday we'll cover that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, being a racer, I've raced. Next year, I'll be 30 years on the track. Well, actually, more than that, it'll be 35 years in road racing. But yeah, when you've been around, you kind of sort through it, and then everybody trades information, and that's how we all learn, and that's how we bring more people into our sport by sharing this information and being part of it and being part of the racing family, because we all are. I mean, we're all in the race. We're all in the same team. We're all in the same family. Doesn't matter if we compete against one another up and down the track. When we're done, there's no better feeling than to walk up to somebody that you just had 35 minutes of wheel-to-wheel racing with and say, man, that was a lot of fun. I can't wait to do it again. So.
Oh, great, Jim. Brad, are there any other questions? I think that was it. Is that correct?
Well, there was a comment from, again, somebody named Facebook user. So he must be on the society page. He says, an easy way to double check yourself on trailer weight balancing, you can scale your truck and trailer combo and adjust how you have the trailer loaded. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that maybe?
Well, you can go to a scale. He's absolutely correct. You can go to a scale and weigh it, and then you can weigh them individually, or you can weigh them like at a truck stop, and then back it up. It's a little more in depth to do it that way because you'll have to loosen the car and move it back and forth to get it all balanced out. But absolutely, it's another way of doing it. Sure.
Okay, good.
Well, thank you, Jim. We really appreciate you joining us today. And if you guys would like to click the little like button and comment. If you want more people like Jim to join us, that would be great. And we really appreciate you joining us, Jim. You're always a wealth of knowledge. Let's see.
When it comes to guests, if anybody has any ideas for a guest that they would like to have us or have join us for Cars and Coffee Live, then please send myself or Carrie an email, call us, send us smoke signals, whatever your preferred method of communication.
Just comment in the field right here if there's anybody you'd like. And we'll be asking that each week. If you have an idea, just add it in the comments and we'll pick that up from there as well. So Jim, again, thank you for joining us.
Sure.
And Brad, we're going to sign off in just a moment. So,
okay.
Oops. I cut you off, Jim. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say, I look forward to the next one. I appreciate everybody. If anybody has any questions, don't hesitate to, call, text, email, whatever. I know Brad and I are talking about doing the next section on weight and sway control, which, hopefully we can help people with that white knuckle ride when the semi passes them. Mm-hmm. So we'll get into that on the next round. But again, thank you guys very much. I appreciate it very much. And anything I can do to help anybody, not a problem. Just let me know.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Jim. Appreciate it. A lot of positive comments coming in on you. So thank you. Brad,
the comments are great. And of course, you have a couple of loyal customers on here who are giving you some kudos about your great customer service. And you were a wealth of knowledge helping them with their trailer selection and with their trailer builds. And also, I want to remind everybody, if you're viewing on YouTube, we need you to like the thumbs up, thumbs up. And then when you subscribe, because I know you want to subscribe to the Kenny Brown YouTube channel, be sure you hit the little bell next to the subscribe button. And it gives you the option to get all notifications or how you want to receive notifications. But we definitely need you and want you to subscribe. And we obviously want you to be notified, particularly every time we do a Cars and Coffee, so you can view and you can ask good questions like the group today.
Great. Well, thank you, Jim, again. I'm going to let you go here. I'm going to remove you from the screen. So.
Okay.
And then again on the YouTube and on Facebook, every time you like or make a comment, that helps our algorithm and it spreads the word a little bit faster. So we would appreciate every time you join us, if you like what we're sharing with you, to push the like button, the subscribe button, and the little bell on YouTube, and then the like button and a comment on Facebook page. So that really helps us out quite a bit. Brad, do you have anything else?
No, I don't have anything else. We had planned on doing another tech video if we were short on time. And of course, we did not run short on time because Jim is such a great guest and a wealth of knowledge that he filled our time slot up pretty good. So what we can do is we can defer that to the next live broadcast that we do.
So again, what we're doing with this is next week we'll have an encore presentation from Kenny, and then every other week we will have a live broadcast with a guest. So it looks like somebody would like to see somebody from Tremec or Force talk about transmissions. We'll see if we can get somebody on with that. We can also get industry celebrities on as well. So whatever you'd like to hear about or talk to, just keep adding them in the comments or contacting Brad or I. So again, it's been a pleasure. Brad, do you have any final sign-off comments?
No, I don't. I just want to thank everyone for joining, and I look forward to seeing everyone again live in a couple of weeks, unless you're in the academy, and then I will see you live on Zoom Tuesday, where we will go over virtual driver coaching.
And that's always a good one. So Take care. Have a great Saturday. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.